This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers, that is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 564, entitled, "If Women Cannot Become Female Masculists." Description. This flyer wonders whether women will ever be able to become female masculists who have a true intuitive understanding of the level of gender criminality that women commit against men. It relates my personal experience with my past 3 girlfriends and their level of female masculist understanding, or the lack of it. This flyer states that it is quite possible that if masculists in their millions become strongly convinced that women are truly solipsistic, gynocentric and childlike, incapable of becoming female masculists, then men will take away their right to vote, arguing that, quote, "children don't vote." Now the flyer itself. If Women Cannot Become Female Masculists, by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. If women truly are incapable, for genetic reasons, of becoming female masculists, empathizing with the claims of the masculists, then we men, we masculists, may become so angry with women, seeing them as irresponsible children, that we may take away their right to vote, arguing that, quote, "children don't vote." I really do wonder about women's ability to become female masculists based on what has happened in my own experience with several women over the past few years. I know that it is very early days, that masculist ideas have barely started to penetrate the female mind at the time of writing, that's September 2022. So it's way too early to pass judgment on women, but I have seen evidence both ways which makes me think that it is possible that women are simply genetically incapable of becoming empathetic to masculist ideas and will remain forever solipsistic, gynocentric, monoconscious feminists. On the other hand, I observe that some women are prominent female masculists who write books about the tribulations of men. And there are definitely some female masculists out there, so it is too soon to pass masculist judgment on women. I relate my experience with the past 3 girlfriends I've had over the past few years, which makes me wonder whether most women are even capable of becoming female masculists. And if not, then what should masculists in their millions in the next decade or so do with women? Should we take away their right to vote, treating them as children? Question mark. Those of you who follow my masculist flyers have been exposed to some of my experiences with girlfriends in recent times. I'll talk about 3 women, A, B, and C. In earlier flyers, woman A I referred to as the gorilla woman. Woman B I had a 2-year relationship with, and woman C is my new current girlfriend. I relate my experiences with them as clues, as evidence to why I pose the question whether women are even capable of being female masculists. The relationship I had with woman A only lasted a month. Things were going well during that period until one of her family watched some of my masculist videos, alerted her mother, and then the gorilla incident occurred. That is, she brought her gorilla-built son in with her to demand I leave her house immediately, telling me the relationship was over, that I was to never contact her again because I was, quote, so insulting to women. I just quietly packed up and left, since I didn't fancy having my face rearranged by her gorilla son, and gave her the label of the gorilla woman. Obviously, from my masculist perspective, it did not occur to this woman that just maybe men may have good reason to be insulting to women. Her monoconscious female chauvinism left a very sour taste in my mouth. It made me wonder whether she could ever be converted to female masculism. She chose to be rid of her boyfriend as a result of her stronger belief in her monoconscious feminism. For all I know, she may still be boyfriendless. Obviously, I don't want a relationship with a monoconscious feminazi bitch. Despite her high intelligence, she was a university professor, but still incapable of putting herself into a masculist's shoes. Exit woman A. Woman B I had a 2-year relationship with, so obviously it was much more serious. She had many good qualities, which is why it lasted as long as it did, but there were always signs that she was monoconscious and showed no understanding of masculine anger and hatred of women who do horrible things to men. For example, at one time, I asked her if I gave a talk to a bunch of women on masculist ideas, how did she think they would react? She replied, quote, "They would crucify you." I put that reply down to her then ignorance of masculist ideas, since the relationship was a good one, so I didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But over time, she never showed any empathy towards the idea that men, masculists, have very good reason to hate certain categories of women who commit such massive gender crimes against men. For example, by enslaving them, divorce raping them, forcing them to pay for kids they don't want, etc. Eventually, her anti-masculism and pro-feminism split us, with her pulling away to the point of hanging up on the phone, and since then I have had no contact. Exit woman B. So for women A and B, both showed an inability to be sympathetic towards masculine hatred of women's major gender crimes against men, who deserve to be hated. So that's 2 out of 2. I argue with myself both ways. The angel on my left shoulder tells me, quote, "It's early days. Give women time to learn about masculine ideas so that they can adjust. You have to expect that they will be hostile to masculine ideas since they know nothing about them and have been pumped full of monoconscious feminism for 6 decades, utterly brainwashed that gender oppression is a one-way street. So be patient. Give women enough time to be influenced by the presence of millions of masculists who exert strong moral pressure on women, threatening them with manlessness if they don't become female masculists." End quote. The devil on my right shoulder says, quote, "Both these women showed no signs of an intuitive understanding of men's plight at the hands of gender criminal women. It is not in their female nature to do so, since women evolved to be capable of coldly, quickly, disloyally dumping a man and giving her vagina quickly to another man, once her current man became no longer capable of providing her and her babies with male hunted meat. Women evolved this way since women had been parasitic on men for 1,000,000 years. They couldn't hunt, couldn't fight, couldn't plough. Women have always been useless and only tolerated by men for their 2 traditional monopolies of vagina and womb. Women evolved to be prostitutes to men, to extract resources from men, exchanging vagina for meat. Women evolved to be solipsistic, gynocentric, since if they didn't, they would not have survived. A woman who remained loyal and faithful to a man who was injured and no longer capable of feeding her and her babies with his male hunted meat was life-threatening to her. So women evolved the ability to dump him quickly and to quickly give access to her cunt to another, more sexploitable man. It would have been against her self-interest to have evolved the ability to have a strong empathy for a man who could not give her resources. This trait remains with women today. They do not give a shit about men at a deep level, merely seeing men as cash machines to pay for women to have babies." End quote. The arguments of the devil on my right shoulder are very persuasive, and that devil may be right. Now for woman C, who's fairly new. She seems quite a bit more open to masculist ideas, and that may be partly because I am better at presenting the masculist case, giving her bam 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 style the main examples of how women are gender criminal towards men, which are hard to refute. It's still early days, so when she gets a full dose of masculist hatred towards the massive gender crimes committed by women against men, will she be able to still empathise with men, with masculists, or will she go the way of the first two? Time will tell. I do suspect, however, that if collective experience of millions of masculists over the planet with millions of women, and the consensus amongst the men, the masculists, is that women are truly solipsistic, gynocentric, incapable of becoming female masculists, so that we men will need to make a decision concerning them, since we will see women as children, as incapable of putting themselves in the shoes of men, and that will make a deep and negative impression on men. If that general impression coming from men becomes near universal, then I can imagine that men will really start seeing women as children, as irresponsible, as non-adult, and then take away women's right to vote, arguing that, quote, children don't vote. As I said at the beginning, it's still very early days, but I do have grave doubts about women's abilities to empathise with men regarding women's horrific gender crimes against men. Maybe women will be forced to pretend that they are female masculists in order to have a man in their lives who can help them pay to have babies. But if men see through this pretense, the outcome may still be the same, that is, women without the franchise. We are in a unique period in history when women are expected by men, by masculists, to grow up, to fip up, to be mature adults who take responsibility for their own lives and for society. If we men become convinced that women are too childlike to do this, then we men will downgrade women's status to non-voting children. I don't know which way this will go, but I do have grave doubts about women's abilities to be female masculists, that is, sincerely believing that women have to fip up and stop parasiting and abusing men, or they will be punished by men by not getting one, and they won't have the vote. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man's Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 560 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.